Well, guys, let's see if we can get in here on this thing a little bit. Yeah, right. Hello. You think I put this back on the tripod? Nah, that would be too easy. So we're just going to balance it here on plastic spoons and vinyl cutters. Right? Why make things easy? Right there. Okay, I think we got it. So meanwhile, let me get my butt down here in the seat. And this came in yesterday. This is the Excalibur. It's the AL 1870-3 Delta Bravo. And it's a two-way deluxe security and remote start system. It's the same one I have in my van, basically, the Astro van. The Astro van, though, has the 860. I put that one in 2 or 3 years ago. Got it from the same place. Kicky Ride, K-I-C-K-Y Ride. And leave me alone. I gotta get rid of you people. That's all there is to it. I don't need you with my phone. Okay. So the difference between the two are range, different frequency on the antenna, the way I understand it. And I believe this one, I'm not sure, and I don't care if it doesn't, but I believe this one has some type of a cellular phone option as well. So, but like I say, I don't care about that. I only use my phone for texting and phone calls, basically. Alright, so meanwhile, this is it. Now they say if you have the 860, you can just unplug the module and plug this one in and it'll work. But if you have this one, you can't plug in the older one. So, but meanwhile, and they sent me via email the install sheet with just the wires that I need to hook up and where they go, so I don't have to go through the whole book, because the books can be intimidating. Here's the brain. It comes with 2 different remotes. It comes with the remote that I normally keep in my work pants. I have one on me now for the Astro van. And then it comes with a two-way remote. Now you can buy more remotes if you want. But I never had the need to. Then it comes with the two-way remote, you know, with the window, with the little display on it. So it tells you if the car is running. It'll tell you if somebody set off the alarm or if the alarm is going off or whatever. So this remote is like the master remote. But when I'm out here working around here, I don't use this one because, again, I don't want to destroy it, because to me, it's in good shape. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but again, I don't want to crack the screen or anything with me climbing around and crawling on the ground. So I don't wear this one or use this one when I'm out here. This is on my set that I go out with. So if I leave, then the other one's with me, or this one's with me. So if that made any sense to you. So meanwhile, I'm going to do a brief unboxing while I'm sitting here talking to you about it. I've never found or had any problems with the Excalibur line. Even when I had my shop and I installed them, they rarely to zero ever came back. If it came back, it was only because it was something stupid and they didn't quite understand what the hell they were doing. Not that they were stupid. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure it out, though, but sometimes, you know, with new things, people just don't understand. You know, like it has a 1 minute before it activates. It gives you time to get out of the vehicle if you wanted to activate it earlier, and things like that. And then, you know, they were just having issues, little bullshit issues. But once they realized that there was anything really wrong with the unit itself. So, the operation manual. Now, like all alarms, not just this one, but all your newer and your better alarms, you can set them on auto run on the crank that you want. For instance, I think it has a 10-second crank, but if your car needs more than 10 seconds to crank it, you know, to start, you can set that. You can, you know, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, or so on and so forth. So you can make those adjustments. Here's your dual zone magnetic impact sensor. All right. And I usually keep this at full because I don't want it going off every time I turn around. So I usually keep it pretty well cranked up so that, you know, if they really have to whack it. I mean, I don't want it to go off if it's in a parking lot and somebody opens the door and hits my car, you know, by mistake. You know, I want it to go off if somebody's trying to break in, but other than that, I don't want it to go off for any little things. You know, let's put it this way: if they're going to break a window, the window's already broke. So what's the difference if it was them tapping on the window or breaking the window? Because by the time I get there, the window's going to be broke anyway. This, I think, is the antenna. And then naturally, this is what I was talking about when it comes to wires. Now, if you have an idea what's going on, you'll know that you're not going to need all these wires. But sometimes, even myself, we jump ahead and we say, oh my God, all these wires. You know, and then what am I doing? You know, that type of thing. What's this one for? What's that one for? Instead of just looking at the book and saying, well, I got to hook this up. This is this wire. You know, instead we're trying to familiarize ourselves with every wire and what it does. Well, we can do that later. We don't have to do that when we're hooking up the alarm. You look in the book and it'll tell you, you know, what you need to hook up. This is the starter hookup, so it'll start the car. This ties into the ignition wires underneath the dashboard. On some vehicles, they have what they call a plug-in module, plug and play, where you don't need to splice in. All you have to do is unplug and plug in. But there's only a few of the cars that they make that particular thing for, and most of the time it's for the most popular cars. So, you know, that's basically it. So if you got one of the more commonly sold cars, then more than likely you can get the plug-in starter module, so you don't have to wire it in. So, but that's what that one's for. And everything is marked on here so you can see. All right, 6-pin, 6-pin. So every plug is color coded or fit to a certain size so that only that plug can fit in. And look, because it should only go in a certain way. So don't try to force it in. Look before you plug it in. But basically this is it. But this is what I say. People can really get, oh my God, what are all these wires? Excuse me. And even myself right now, I say, God, man. You know, I mean, just to have to deal with them. What I normally try to do is, and I haven't done this in a while, like I said, the last time I did was 3 years ago in the Astrovan. But when I had the shop, what I would normally do is go through this big old string of wires, look as to which ones I was going to actually need, and then cut the other ones off at about 6 inches. And when I cut them off, I wouldn't cut them off all the same length. I'd cut them off like a ½ inch longer or shorter, but always staying within that 6-7 inches, because if they did accidentally happen to break through the tape and touch something or one another, I didn't want them to short out. So I always cut them a little bit different lengths so they couldn't short out against one another. So, but again, that's all up to the installer. But you know, why have all these wires underneath your dash if you don't need them all? But you don't want to cut them off so darn short that you can't add, if you needed to, add to it. At least with 6 inches hanging off the back of the thing, I can always go back in there and splice a wire in if I have to, which would give me that option of using that wire. And right now, see, already just having it out here, I'm having a nightmare with these wires. They're getting all tangled up. But meanwhile, you know, like I said, they can become intimidating. And if you don't know what they're talking about in the book, it only makes it worse. But like I say, when you buy from these guys, they send you a sheet saying, if you want the alarm to work, this is all you really need. And they give you the wire color and the color of the wire that it's going to go to and whereabouts it is. You know, and the same with the auto start. Now the other ones, they're for different features. So you, like again, you may not want to just cut them off up here tight, leave enough room so if you have to add to them, you can, because you may want to add that feature. You know, like if it rains, your windows go up by themselves, stuff like that, you know. Your sunroof, if it rains, it closes. You know, there's all kinds of things you can add to these alarms. But again, already they're driving me nuts. You don't need all these wires. This goes to the antenna, so there's nothing there but just plug in and plug in. I really don't know what this little one here goes to. Well, you know what? I think I do. This is a module if you were going to be using like some Chevys and some of the Fords that are made in Canada. They have that computer or something in them, so that you need a small adapter to work with that computer, and I think that's what that's for. I'm not positive. You guys up in Canada know what I'm talking about. Like my van, the Ford, they made some in Canada, so some of them have it. The Ford is easy to tell because it has the key. I have a regular key. The ones that came out of Canada, the way I understand it, and again, this is only hearsay, I don't know for sure, has the programming key, the chip. So, and those would need that little module, which isn't expensive. I think it's like $12-15 or something, and it's just something that plugs in, so it's not a big deal. There's a 9-volt backup battery, just in case, but I never use that. And this is the siren. Now it's loud, plenty loud, but they make them a lot smaller now, so they're easier to place. I mean, they're doing that on most of your alarms, so it's not just Excalibur that's doing that. Now this is good up to 1,500 feet. However, well, I may not be able to do it with this one. They also claim that this one, I think they're talking about this one when they say the cell phone. So it'll actually let me start my vehicle using my phone as well. I think that's what they're talking about. Yeah, control and monitor your car. And it shows the phone using some type of a Link Mobile. I don't know. It may not be this one. Who knows? Again, I really don't care. But at that point, I guess it's supposed to do it. Now, apparently, there's some changes that were made here, which I wasn't aware of, but who knows? This is, I believe, the parent company to this, as well as a few other alarms, is Omega, I believe. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But it also says learn more at audiovox.com. So Omega may be the installation guides and remotes, and the alarm may be part of AudioVox because it says parent. So the parent company to this apparently is AudioVox. AudioVox is, when I had my store, I used to keep a lot of private label stuff in my store, so it was hard for anybody to compare prices. And I always made sure that I was within reason, and if it was my design, that it was going to do a little bit more and a little bit better than the basic, because my name was going to be on it. I actually put an alarm together, developed, whatever you want to call it, an auto alarm. And AudioVox at the time, if I remember correctly, was in Long Island. And me being in Connecticut, she used to skip away, but I got a hold of them. And I was doing a lot with AudioVox back then. And I says to him, can you make me an alarm to spec if I give you everything I need? So he says, well, yeah. It may get expensive, however, but... Okay. I'm listening to the hurricane net just in case somebody needs a remote relay or something. But they said we may have an alarm that's close to it, and we can just add, your product, your change, your development to it, which would be a lot cheaper. I go, well, listen, whichever way, whichever way, as long as it works. And that's what they were able to do. So it did save me some money. And in return, that didn't have any of their labeling on it. It had my label on it. So again, it was a private label alarm. So I had, the average buyer, if he's looking at a model number and a name, versus a model number and name, they had nothing to compare prices with. Now mine was going to be more, but mine did more. Now I also had lower ends, but if it was a lower end, I just put you into a Excalibur, or in this case AudioVox, with the Excalibur system, or the K9. I kind of shied away from the K9, even though I believe they're all within the same system. But after a while, I got rid of K9. K9 had a problem with their wires; they kept breaking. But at that point, that's what we did. Now, if you read the specs and you understood what you were reading, you would see that mine did offer a little bit more. But did you need that little extra offering, or could you have saved the money and went here? You follow? But mine was, I always had private label on most of my product. I'd call the company, and you don't have to design anything to have a private label. Like for instance, antennas. The package is up here. I know I'm just rattling on here, but for instance, this, all right, this isn't Browning. This is probably just made by some Chinese operation that's making hundreds of thousands of these a day, and this is a printed label for Browning that they put on it. Now, if I wanted one buzzsaw, I call up the company, I said, I want that, but I want buzzsaw. So they'd make another label up for me, and it would say buzzsaw on it. And so then I can sell it as my own label. Okay? But meanwhile, they're all being made by the same place. It's got all the Browning information on it, but again, I don't believe it's Browning. I'm almost positive. Oh, made in Taiwan. Yeah, so, okay. So at that point, that's how a lot of private labeling works. It doesn't mean that it's any worse or any better. It just means that I got it with my name on it instead of somebody else's name on it. And what helps with that is that it helps with marketing. Once you've established a name, it works well. Meanwhile, let me get off the subject of that. We're talking about the alarm here. Starter relay, power windows, antennas. Let me find a home for all this. Telemarketers. See, this is where the telemarketing could be a pain in the ass. somebody may be trying to get a hold of me from another state to relay something, and I'm looking at it as being a telemarketer, and I really don't want to answer it, waste my time if it isn't. So, you know, here we go. Telemarketing should be made illegal because what they're doing is illegal, believe it or not. When they call you from numbers that don't exist, and names that don't exist, and 100 different numbers for the same company selling something that you can't get back to them on, that's fraud. It's illegal. If they call you, don't buy anything. That's all I say. And if you say, well, I'll call you back, and they give you a number, don't use that number. Research the company and try to find a number on them someplace, either through the Better Business Bureau, the computer, the internet. I mean, there's always a way. And even then, you have to be careful if you call that number back, because you never know. You know, there's big money in that. All right, anyway, here I go again. I'm sorry, guys. Let me have my coffee. I'll get back to you.